I gave myself a mission of finding the best ETFs available on InvestEngine.
Because with over 500 ETFs to choose from on the platform, how are we supposed to know which of these funds are the best, and where do we even start to look? If you don't invest in the best funds, then you're not going to have the best portfolio, and you're definitely not going to have the best investing experience. But after spending over 8 months on the platform, I know exactly what you need to look out for in the best funds, and I'll show you exactly how I figured this out to help me build the perfect portfolio.
But before I even looked at the funds, I first had to figure out exactly what I meant by the best.
So you know that I'm all about low-cost, diversified passive investing, so that's exactly what I'm going to prioritize. I want funds that have a low ongoing cost, a large number of stocks relative to others, and preferably I want it to be a passive fund. But remember, this is what I'm looking for, and you may have different preferences yourself. For example, when I went out for a curry last night, I chose to have a vindaloo. I think it's the best curry because I love a bit of spice. I can handle it. But not everybody can, so maybe a creamy curry, like a korma, is better for you. But either way, it is vital that you nail down these preferences early, before you go diving into picking funds blindly.
But even if you know what you're looking for in a fund, the next step is to know how to find it.
And to do this, we need to use the tools that InvestEngine provide for us. When you click on a fund, the overview page shows you most of the key information. You can see the costs on the right-hand side of the screen, and if you scroll down a little, you can find a breakdown of the ETF, which also shows roughly how many stocks are in the fund. But for the most accurate details, it is best to look at the fact sheet for each fund. Each company will use a different format, but you should be able to find extra information on here, such as dividend yields, ESG scores, and PE ratios. Sometimes there are some differences between the value stated on InvestEngine and the actual value stated on the fact sheet, so sometimes it's best to just double check on here. You want to get to know these fact sheets like they're your best friend. Get close to them, learn their secrets, take them out for dinner sometime. I said I can handle it. Whilst it might seem a little scary at first, you'll soon get the hang of picking the right information off of them. In my case, I want to double check the costs and number of stocks in this fund, which I can see as 0.12% costs, with a total of 2,232 stocks, which roughly matches up with what InvestEngine showed.
Then if you want to find the best funds, you have to start by defining some boundaries.
Let's just be friends. Not those boundaries. What I mean is that you can't just go looking through all 500 funds, comparing the ongoing charges and number of stocks, trying to find the best fund on the platform, because a UK-based ETF is probably going to have lower ongoing charges and way less stocks than, say, an emerging markets ETF. It's like comparing apples to oranges. Or vindaloos to kormas. It only makes sense to find the best funds within certain categories, as in finding the best UK-based fund separate to finding the best emerging markets fund, based on the preferences that you set earlier. So you can use the fund search bar to find the best funds in particular categories. For example, here, I'm trying to find the best developed markets fund. You can then make a note of all the relevant funds in the category, look at their features, and then compare them based on your preferences. I managed to find 8 equity ETFs that invest solely in the developed markets. They all have very similar names, so you'd expect that they all have similar costs and a similar number of stocks, but let's see the results. It turns out that the ongoing charges ranged all the way from 0.12% up to 0.55%. And whilst most of the funds had around 1,400 stocks, the Vanguard fund, which also happens to be the tied cheapest, actually had 2,000 stocks. When they're laid out side by side like this, it's clear to see that the Vanguard fund is the best developed markets fund for me, based on the preferences that I set. Just remember that you may have a different set of preferences, so the best developed world fund for you may be completely different. Vindaloo.
If you want to take this one step further, you can use this to help create the best portfolio for you.
By comparing the funds in a few different sectors, you can pick out the best funds in each category and combine them to make the ultimate portfolio. I repeated the same process for the emerging markets funds, but this one was a lot more difficult to decide. The HSBC option was the cheapest, but the iShares IMI version had way more stocks and was more diversified. I decided to go for the HSBC one because costs are more important to me, but that doesn't mean that you have to agree with me. You can then combine these two funds to make a portfolio and select the weightings based on the allocations that you're looking for. In fact, I actually used this exact process when I created my ISA portfolio a few months ago, which invests in a developed markets fund and an emerging markets fund, with costs, diversification, and ESG rating in mind. If you like the look of this portfolio, or if you think you can do better, you can use the share portfolio function on InvestEngine to show others what you're invested in. And if you use this feature to refer a friend, you'll both earn a £25 bonus. I'll make sure to add my own referral link and the terms and conditions in the description below. But if you really want to get the most out of your investments, then picking the best funds is not the main thing that you need to be worrying about. You also need to understand how to simplify and master the entire investing process so that you can get the maximum returns in the shortest amount of time. And that's why you need to watch this video here, where I show you how to achieve financial independence in under 24 hours of investing time.